We always hear don't work for free. But in this episode, we're talking to Stacy Tuschl, who did exactly that and grew $2 million businesses. So if you want to hear that story and learn some inside tricks and tips of what she did, well, keep listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today we have a doozy of a story to run you guys through. Today's guest has been a friend for a few years now, someone I've actually worked with, someone I respect a lot, and I'll tell you why here in a second. But someone who has built a couple different businesses, and I think would be such a great example to show you what is possible for you, for your children, and someone who really kind of went after what they wanted without having to go through the normal society norms of what success is told or how success is told it needs to be. And that is Stacy Tuschl. So Stacy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So Stacy, I'm really glad you're here today. Out of everyone in the space, I don't think I've even told you this before, but you're someone that I have one of the people that I have the most respect for. And one of the reasons why is because you really encompass what I think an entrepreneur should be, which is like two things. Number one, someone who just goes after it. Like I call you kind of like a bulldog in a good way, because you just like, you're ferocious and you go after it. But two, you maintain a very calm inner state no matter what's being thrown at you. And I feel like it just allows people to navigate things in such a powerful way. So again, thank you so much for being here. For those who don't know who you are, can you just quickly give just what you're currently doing today inside of your business? And then we'll kind of backtrack to your story.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. That means so much coming from you. So currently today, what I do is I have a performing arts academy. So we sell music and dance classes. It's been 18 years since I started. And I have another business, Foot Traffic, which is consulting other people just like me, small business owners. Most of them are traditional brick and mortars. And I've been doing that for about 5 years or so. So I've got two main businesses that I run simultaneously together.
I love that. So are both of those businesses like 7-figure businesses?
They are.
Okay, great. So what I want to do is I want to jump right in, because that's impressive. Like most of the people that are here on this podcast, they're running like their first business or their first successful business, but you have two. And it's interesting because you have an online and an offline. And actually it's kind of interesting. Our most downloaded episode, or one of the most downloaded episodes, was with a person named Jared who runs all offline. He has like no online presence, but he like kills it offline. So can we talk about the dance studio first? And I would love to hear kind of like why dance and how did that all get started?
Yeah. So I actually grew up going to a very small private school here. When I say small, I had 10 kids in the entire class, and I stayed with those kids from kindergarten to 8th grade. And when I graduated 8th grade, all of my friends went to the private high school, but I went to the public high school, and I was the only one. And now I went from 10 kids to 450 in my class, and I know nobody. So my mom says, you should try out for something. Like, that's how you're going to make friends. Go try out for a team, and that'll be a good way for you. So the first thing was the dance team. I have zero dance experience at this time. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I was one of 3 freshmen to make the varsity dance team.
With no experience?
With no dance experience. I mean, I was like a cheerleader, and I do this in quotations because a cheerleader at a school with there's like 8 girls. I mean, come on, like it was nothing. It was a joke. And it's funny.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did all the other girls like not like you because you're just like, oh, I'm going to do this thing, and then you beat them out for varsity? I think
I was under the radar because no one knew me, right? And they probably thought, oh, she's been dancing for a while. I didn't publicly announce like, I don't know what I'm doing. This was like a fake it till you make it type of thing. I did have an older sister who was an actual cheerleader at this school, and she would give me some pointers during tryouts, like you got to smile and stop doing this. So I felt like I had a good coach, make the team. And then I fall in love with it. Like it was the thing that I should have been doing my entire life that I didn't experience until then. So my first dance studio experience, because remember, this is like the dance team out of high school. My first dance studio, I was 15 years old stepping into a dance studio for the first time.
Wow.
Now, when I tell dance studio owners that, they get mad at me because they're like, what? I've been doing this since I was 3. And like, that's crazy. So part of my story was, I had to catch up. Like I was definitely the underdog trying to work really hard to get good. And I did get pretty good. My senior year, I was the captain of the varsity team. Wow. And I knew though that I wasn't going to do this professionally. I was good, but I wasn't that good. I wasn't going to Broadway. That wasn't happening. Right. So I was taking the traditional path. I was going to go to college, and I did attend the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I ended up getting a bachelor's degree in business administration and marketing, but with the intention of I was going to work for somebody. Right. So I was going to school, and then I thought, what'd be fun? What if I could teach like middle schoolers? Cause I'm a little bit better than them. They're not going to know I'm not that great. So I just put out some flyers that summer and said, hey, I'm doing a free middle school competitive dance team. I am the former captain of the Oak Creek High School public, dance team, and who's in? And I had 17 kids that first summer that signed up and said, I'm doing this. Yeah.
So you just where did you put the flyers at? Where'd you
So yeah, we had a couple random people that we knew that were in middle school. And I said, can you pass this out to your friends? So I probably gave like a few flyers to 2 girls, but those 2 girls were on the middle school dance team.
Gotcha. Okay. And then how much did you charge for the classes?
Okay. I charged nothing.
Oh my gosh.
I charged nothing. Leader. I basically said, these are free, but you will have to pay for competition fees. You are going to pay for your costume. But if the costume costs like $29.38, I charged $29.38.
Oh my God.
When I say I was not going in with a business intention, clearly I had no business intention.
Yeah. So it's just like, this will be fun, and I'm going to give it a try. Oh my God.
And I always tell people, people think oh, how nice you did this for the kids. I'm like, no, I did it for myself. I wanted to keep dancing. This was such a selfish act in the moment. I was just a random, normal 18-year-old who's like, how do I keep doing what I love? I'm like, oh, I could do this. That'd be fun.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. So what happened from there?
From there, they loved what I was giving. And clearly at a $0 price tag, it was a very exciting offer for those moms.
It was a no-brainer offer.
Totally. And I didn't even know that existed back then, but I had one. So within 3 years, and just so you know, I didn't have any money. No one was funding this. So I was doing classes in my parents' backyard. And a funny story with that even, our high school cafeteria, which is where the dance team practices, was shut down my senior year summer. We had no place to practice. So my mom, I have the best mom, very supportive, will do whatever we need, was like, you know what? We have a nice big backyard. Why don't you invite the dance team to practice here all summer? That's awesome. That became something where it was like, I could do the competitive dance team middle schoolers in my backyard too. So I literally had these kids getting dropped off on Sunday in the backyard. And then all of a sudden it started to get cold. I live in Wisconsin. And one of my dancers said, hey, my church thinks it's really cool what you're doing. And they said they would give us the church basement for free on Sundays if you want it.
Oh, that's cool.
Sign me up. So then I didn't have to charge because I was getting all of this stuff and I didn't need to get paid for it. I loved it so much. So within 3 years, I had 100 kids getting dropped off every Sunday in my parents' backyard.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So was the price point, was it still zero at this point?
Still zero. Oh it's so embarrassing. When people are like, you're such a good business owner. I'm like, okay, but I learned. I got there gradually. This was not like an overnight, I knew how to do this.
Well, it kind of reminds me of when I started my business, I would do a lot of videos for free. And people are like, wow, you're not supposed to work for free. And I'm like, well, I'm not working for free. I'm still gaining something. I'm gaining the experience or the knowing, and I'm gaining the testimonials and the social proof. And in a way, that's kind of what you were gaining back then, So at what point did you go okay, this needs to turn into an actual business?
Yes. So 3 years in, I am now a junior at the university. And I did grow up in an entrepreneurial family. So my grandfather started an excavating company over 50 years ago. We dig basements for houses. So we're in construction. My grandparents worked in the business. My parents worked in the business. My uncle still runs it today. That's how I grew up. Now, I do want people to hear that and they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. Nobody else in my family is an entrepreneur. I have 2 sisters. They are not entrepreneurs. No one else has, like, it's not like just an automatic, oh, of course, that's why she knows everything.
Right.
It's not like that. So anyway, 3 years in, fortunately, being in a family like this, my family started to say, you should charge. Like, this could be a business. Like, you could keep doing your passion forever.
Right.
Like, you could do that. So my parents started to say that. And then the parents of the dancers started to say, can we pay you something? Like, is there anything we can do? Like, they love this, and you do this every Sunday. And it was like a 10-month thing, you guys. This wasn't like I donated 4 weeks a year. This was every Sunday for 10 months.
It's almost a whole year.
Yeah. That's how usually the dance team runs. So they started to suggest paying. My family started saying this could be it. And then I was like, oh my goodness, this could be it. So I immediately go to my dad and my mom and I'm like, I want to drop out of school. They're like, no, you're not. You are a junior. You are going to finish. Like, you are so close to the finish line. Just get it. Cause I'm sure they were also thinking, this might not be lucrative. You might not actually make money. Like, let's get your degree. So they really made me get my degree. And I will tell you, I passed is like the bare minimum you need to pass is how I passed my
That's what I tell
schooling.
people. C's get degrees.
Oh, wow. Like, I mean, it's embarrassing how bad my transcripts are, but I'm like, I got my degree. I've got it.
I was the same way in college. Like I only went to college because I had a full ride for like running and track. And then I ended up dropping out after 2 years, but my whole philosophy was like, C's get degrees. I don't need to get straight A's in this. So like, I'm already in. So I totally get that. Okay. So your family's kind of pushing you to finish the degree, but also they're kind of like whispering in your ear, maybe we should charge. You're starting to see the parents say that. When do you start charging?
Yeah. So 3 years in, when that all happens, I decide, okay, let's do this. So now I start looking around to rent a space. No more backyard, no more church basement. Cause I'm lugging around the radio. Like, you're talking, this was 2002. So you know how big boom boxes were back then for CD players?
Yeah,
like, huge. I would have to lug those things around. I'd have like a traveling filing cabinet. Cause like they would have to make payments for competitions and payments for costume fees. So I was like bringing my office every time to either outside in the backyard or into the church basement.
Oh my God.
So it was like amazing to finally get our own space. And I remember at the time it was a $1,500 a month rental fee. And I wasn't making any money yet. I'm like, how am I going to do this?
That's a big expense, especially because you're still in college, right? You're a junior.
Yeah, still at college. I was bartending because I was basically going to school full time. I was teaching at another dance studio in the evenings on the weekdays. I was teaching on Sundays for myself. And then I needed to make money. So I was working like Friday and Saturday nights, like 10 o'clock at night till 2 a.m. bartending.
Holy smokes.
At two different bars. Yeah.
That's insane.
So that was what I was looking like in high school or in college, I should say. And then when I decided to rent that space, so what I decided was, this is how I got my pricing. My local competitor was charging $45 a month. I was like, I'll charge $30. If I'm the cheapest, they'll come to me, right? However, charging $30, 100 kids, I was immediately bringing in $3,000 a month. Yep. Immediately with my business. Now that sounds like a lot, but after you add up $1,500 for rent, utilities. Now I have to pay heat, electric. I have to pay phone. They make me have a phone bill or phone line and an emergency phone line and all these crazy things
and all that stuff.
I immediately started to get into debt, like right away. It was fast. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what, I try to tell people that all the time. Like sometimes you hear these big like launch numbers and they're like, oh, they just pocketed $1 million. And you're like, yeah, no, there's like affiliate payouts and then there's like overhead and then there's a team of 15 people and then like whatever's left over, it gets taxed. And then, I'm not complaining, like still doing great, but it's
just not what people think.
Yeah. So I totally get that. So now you're going into debt as a college student, which I guess is not out of the realm of normal, but it is a different type of debt. So what happened? Like, did you get to a breaking point of like this, enough is enough?
I did it for about a year. So let's say we opened in September. I think we actually opened in August. I did it from August until probably, I would say not even like that 10-month mark. And all of a sudden I got a postcard in the mail. And so remember, this is pre-social media. Facebook doesn't exist. So I always tell people it's probably like the Facebook ad today is what I got in the mail. It was a postcard. It was like, are you overworked and underpaid? Are you doing this because you love dance, but you don't know anything about business? Like all the things that like I needed to hear. And it was pitching me on a 2-day business seminar for dance studio owners in New York City.
Oh, cool.
And it was $1,000. And again, like, oh, great. Another expense, right? I don't know what I'm doing. Now I have to do this. I have to get airfare and fly to New York. I'm 21 years old. This is not like I'd never been on an airplane by myself. Like it was definitely a big deal.
Yeah.
So I remember I went to my mom and I said, okay, I got this postcard. Is this like a scam? Should I even think about this?
Right.
Is this crazy to spend $1,000? And she was like, actually, your grandfather and your dad and your uncle, they go to conferences all the time. And $1,000 is like nothing compared to what they spend sometimes. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I asked her, like, do you want to come with me? Because I'm nervous. I'm scared. I don't know what to expect. I don't know anybody. Right. So I decided to go. My mom comes with me. We fly to New York City. And it was like, the most amazing moment I will never forget of just sitting down with people in a room who they didn't put that trip on a credit card and they didn't hurry and run and then have to run back home. They were hanging out for a week and enjoying New York City. And they were like giving back and making money. And they looked like they actually weren't, stressed like I was. So I think just like seeing the possibility in that room, I totally drank that Kool-Aid. And I'm so grateful that I got that postcard because I don't know where I would have gone from there, or if I ever would have gotten into like this whole world of business books and podcasts and conferences and mentors and masterminds. Like this guy was the guy that introduced me to all of that.
Wow, that's crazy. It's almost like you said, it's like the modern day Facebook ad and the modern day course. It's like you saw the ad, it was very targeted. They come into my course. Did they have an upsell there for you guys?
Of course they did. So this guy, he was a dance guy. I found out later on that his mentor was Dan Kennedy. So trust me when I say, like, I got to learn. I never bought anything from Dan. I shouldn't say I never bought anything. I never went to a Dan Kennedy conference, but trust me, I got a lot of Dan Kennedy training with my mentor because that was his mentor.
Oh, that's unbelievable. It's so funny how that stuff works out.
It is. It's crazy. So what I was upsold was, I'll never forget the price, $187 a month, 12-month commitment to be in a mastermind, right? And I didn't know what that was. I thought $187 sounded like the craziest number. Like who would pay that?
Right.
But I had so drank the Kool-Aid that I would have whipped out my credit card for anything. Like I was ready. I knew I needed it. I could not afford to walk away without getting that.
Right. And so that sounds like it was like that moment of switching from like hobby to full on business owner. Would you say it was because of the training and being a part of the mastermind, or was it because of just seeing everyone there and realizing there's a better way, or maybe both?
I think both, because I think I had to see the possibility. And then I was like, what did everybody do? How do I, you know me, I'm a doer. You tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. And I was just like, tell me everything. I will come, I will walk away. And I did. I went home. I immediately hired somebody because he said, you cannot be the only person in your business. So I hired 2 teachers that year. I started to ask myself, why is my dance studio better than other studios around versus like, oh, we're the cheapest, right? We actually started to raise our rates and go to be the most expensive, not the cheapest. I started to get like a custom dance floor that was like good for the dancers and just like what would make us be that unfair advantage. And that's what I went home and immediately implemented.
I love all of that. So the thing is, and one of the lessons that I hope you guys are paying attention for, the listeners are paying attention to, is what Stacy talked about is something that I talk to you guys about all the time, which is you have to kind of walk off the ledge and hope the net appears. Like Stacy, you were in debt. And then they asked you to, and you paid $1,000 when you're already in debt. And then they asked you to pay even more as a 12-month commitment. Then you did it. Then you went back home and started raising your rates and investing in even more.
So it was like
hiring somebody's paying. Now I have payroll. I never had payroll before. This dance floor was a few $1,000s. Yeah. I mean, I definitely was gambling, but I feel like seeing what was possible and seeing what they were doing, I knew I had to make those decisions.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of funny. I talked to my brothers about it, and most of them are starting their own businesses and stuff too. But before they did, they would always ask me like, how do you spend, like, don't you get scared spending, like 100,000, 50,000 or whatever on a launch? And I'm like, no, because you said a word gambling. And I told them, I'm like, it feels like you're gambling, but everything is in your favor. And it really is. Like, I feel like if you just continue to go down the path, you're making all the right moves. Eventually, if you just don't give up and you keep testing and trying new things, it's like you're going to hit it eventually. So it is gambling, but it's
not as risky.
Exactly.
Because we know, okay, like this many people did this thing and they got results. Okay.
Right.
Well, if I can just keep tweaking and stay on that path, I should be getting results too, right? I mean, out of all the things I would try, yeah, there'd be a few things that didn't work for me or my market. Right. Sometimes it was a lack of the implementation, but sometimes it was just like, okay, that one thing didn't work, but the other ones did, and it worked really well.
100%. Yeah. And it is like gambling, but it's just always in your favor. And people just don't realize that. So, okay. So you started making these shifts, like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to have the best stuff. I'm going to raise the highest prices. How did people respond?
Well, one of the biggest things that we did too was I was in the beginning just saying yes to everybody. If somebody called, do you have this? Yes, we do. Do you do this? Yes, we have it. Right. Anything. And I started to almost how do I say this? I wasn't the best dancer. So of course I'm not going to have the best training, right? I'm not going to be teaching at the highest level. Whereas maybe my competitors have been dancing literally their entire life and maybe have way better dancers or dance teachers than me. So I said, I can't really compete by we train the best dancers, right?
Right.
So I was like, well, what do I have in my favor? And what I went back to was I liked dance because it was fun. It was socializing with friends. And no, I didn't want to go to Broadway or be this amazing professional dancer, but I did it for the fun of it. And I thought most dance studios promote, we'll get you the best dancer. What if I promote, we will have, your child will love it. They're going to have fun. They're going to socialize. They're going to get all of these benefits. And all of a sudden we became the place to send your kid that you just wanted to join for a 3-year-old ballet class to have fun versus let's get her to Broadway. No, 2% of the population wants their child on Broadway. What majority of the moms want is just a fun thing for their kids to do once a week and meet new people. Right.
Yeah.
And as soon as we switched our messaging, we blew up. It was crazy. I mean, my competitor, I remember the first time I counted, one of the things that happens in the dance world is we have this annual shirt and we have all the kids' names on the back. Yeah. So I had one of those shirts and she had 800 people that were coming to her that year.
Yeah.
And we started to come in and we went from 100 to 300 to 500. And pretty soon our number started to go up and her number started to go down.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Did she say anything to you ever?
No, I've probably seen her twice in the last 15 years.
Oh, okay.
And we're in the exact same city, which is crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's so true. And it's messaging can be that one thing, just one small shift in messaging can change everything. But it really is getting down to understanding, and it's so cliche, but understanding who your market is. And it is true because I have 2 daughters now, and one of them does ballet or did pre-COVID, was doing ballet classes. And if they were promoting, we're going to get her to Broadway and professional, I'm like, yeah, no, I don't even want to put her. It's not even, I wouldn't go there because of that. That's not the selling point.
No, but what I want people to understand is but there can be a studio out there that is hey, listen, we create the best dancers and your kid will be, and that gets to be their niche. And the second I started to separate myself, and sometimes I had to turn people down and say, you should go to that place. You will love it there. You will not be happy here. I mean, we literally started to get people to go to them. But it just helped us more and more. And I think you can both win and both survive, right?
Totally. Because it's more of a specialty type of thing. So that makes a ton of sense. So when you said blow up, numbers wise, what are we talking about?
I mean, first, so I've been around now since 2002 with this business. I hit, 2008 was a recession and we were going through there. We grew every single year. 2020 is the only year you will ever see my numbers go down. And hey, if I can have that kind of run rate and only be slowed down in a pandemic where the government has shut down my business for 2.5 months, I'm okay with that. So even in 2008, 9, 10, you will look at our profit and loss. You will look at our student numbers. We grew every single year. So, I mean, it's been so long now that I don't know my real numbers, but I mean, you're talking, we'd go from 100 to 300, from 300 to 450. I mean, we were just scaling and then climbing. And then once we hit maybe 700, I feel like it started to kind of remember when I said she was at 800, that was pre-me.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely took from that pie. So we're the largest in the area. And I feel like when we got to 700, 800, we started more slower growth and more maintaining because we also have other competitors too, but we are the largest.
So when you say 700, you're talking 700
700 students that come to us on a weekly basis. So if you just sat on my front door, 700 people are going to walk through that door every single week.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what do you do pricing wise for them? Or is it different plans and stuff like that?
Yep. So we have like your basic like barrier of entry is coming into once a week, that once a week, every single month, and it's reoccurring revenue. So probably around like $70 a month is where a base person starts. Maybe a little cheaper if it's a smaller one. But then we are upselling them into more of a competitive program coming twice a week, 3 times a week. We have some people that come to us 6 days a week that are spending maybe $500 a month with us on a monthly basis.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then what are because I know that people always want to move to offline businesses because they think the margins are higher and a lot of stuff like that. What are the margins on a business like that? Because I know the overhead's got to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really isn't great. And here's what I want people to understand is when you are telling me about online, when you have an online business and you're telling me like, my profit margin's only 25%, it's like, oh, if you even knew the brick and mortar world, right?
I know.
In the brick and mortar world, 20% is like phenomenal. It really is. It's phenomenal. So when you hear the online space sometimes say like, well, I'm shooting for 40% or 50%, it's like, that would never happen in a brick and mortar. It just wouldn't. So honestly, and obviously 2020 is a very different year, but yeah, we are shooting for a bare minimum of 20%, 15% sometimes is still amazing.
Yeah. That's still really good too. Like if you're doing $1 million a year, you're talking $150,000 a year in profit. So that's pretty amazing. Okay, great. So now you're scaling this thing out. There's a transition because now you have this online and offline business. How do you start to remove yourself from that business and move online? What does that look like?
Yeah. So I didn't remove myself for online. I was already removed. Okay. So what happened was I started going to this conference. I'm in the mastermind. I'm in group coaching. And I was there, every year for 8 years, I would literally go back to the same conference and just rinse and repeat, get smarter every year. And then all of a sudden, I walked into my studio one day and there was like 4 people working there behind the desk. And they looked at me and they were like, oh, did you need something? Like it was like I was interrupting them. Why was I there? And what did I need? Like, what did they need from me or I need from them? Because I was like, they wanted me to basically leave. Like they didn't need me. Okay.
Right.
Which is funny because it's what I had always wanted. I was literally becoming a delegation master. I was building a team. We have 40 plus employees in my brick and mortar.
That's a lot.
So I was just building managers and leadership and directors and all of that. And then it was like, holy cow, I just gave everybody all of the jobs. There's nothing for me to do and no one needed me anymore. And I hated it. Like I was bored out of my mind. So this is how I know how often this was 8 years ago. So I was, my daughter, Tanner, is going to be 8. When I was pregnant, I had nothing to do. Okay. I was already running $1 million business. I had nothing to do that I would go to a baby store almost every day because I didn't know what else to do. Yeah. I would literally go to Babies R Us and just like buy things and shop. And my husband worked at the time. He was on the SWAT team and he would be gone all the time. And he would constantly say, you need to find a hobby. Like you can't keep doing this. Like this is not good. And then when he would come home, he wanted to decompress and I just wanted to hang out with him. Because I had been bored sitting at home doing nothing all day, shopping for babies that I didn't have at the time, right? Like the baby wasn't here. So it wasn't like she was keeping me busy. So that what happened was I then finally had Tanner. And that was when I officially never went back into the building. So when I had Tanner, I went on maternity leave and I never went back. So I never worked ever any hours in the building. And for 18 months, I was a stay-at-home mom. Which just blows my mind because if you know me, you know, you couldn't even fathom that. Now I still tried to work on the computer, but 18 months in, I said, I can't do this. Like I need a challenge. I need to grow. I need something. Right. So what I did was I remembered the conference was such like this massive spark that I was thinking, where can I go with a fresh mind and just ask myself, what could I do next? So I don't know if you know who Darren Hardy is. At the time, he was the publisher of Success Magazine. Yep. But he had this 2-day event. I have no idea if he still has it or what it looks like today. This was like 7-8 years ago. But he had a 2-day event for $10,000. So talk about an up level there.
Right.
And it was for like $24 million business owners. So I apply, I get in, I go there, and I literally go there saying to them, I'm here to find a new business. I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm just coming to get inspired. And Darren actually came up to me at the end of the conference because it's 24 people. It's very small.
Right.
So Darren says to me, and it's so funny. And I bust him out on this story because it's just too good not to share. But he's like, there is this girl, her name is Marie, something with an F, no idea. Like, you're going to have to look her up, but you should try to do what she's doing. And in my mind, I'm like, I don't know who Marie F is. Right. So I go to lunch, I sit down at the table and I said, hey guys, Darren wants me to look up this female entrepreneur that teaches other female entrepreneurs. And her name is Marie F. And everybody looked at me like they couldn't believe I didn't know who Marie Forleo was. Like that, just to them, it was crazy. So I go home, I start stalking her. What happens? I go down this huge rabbit hole and I find out of the online world and what exists out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like life just totally changed.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny too, because I'm like hearing your story and I've never heard the side of the story of the transition. And it was funny because we were out to dinner or my wife was out with one of her friends and she just asked like, well, what's the end game for Brandon? Like, when do you know you've hit that? Because most people are like, I'm going to work for a certain amount of years and then it's done and then it's going to retire. And she's like, I don't know. And she asked me, she's like, what is the end goal? I'm like, I don't have an end goal. I literally want to do this for the rest of my life. Like, there's no moment where I'm like, okay, I've achieved this and then I'm just going to retire. I'm like, I'm sure there'll be a point where I'm like, I want to retire, but I'm like, I've already hit the end goal. Like this is it now. And I think you've experienced that. It was like, you love that building of the business. And then when you didn't have it, you're just like going bonkers and crazy. And that's what I would feel like too. It's like, people are like, when are you going to retire? I'm like, I am like, I'm good. I wake up every day and I'm just excited to do what I'm doing. I'm like, I won, so I totally can relate.
Well, and can I tell you one piece that I totally forgot to share was when my husband's like, you need a hobby, you need to do something, like this isn't working. I was like, you know what? Why don't I open a second studio up? That would give me a challenge. So I opened up a second studio and within 1 year it's profitable and they don't need me.
Oh my gosh. Well, because you've already done it.
I've already done it. Easy. I have the systems. I have the people. We know what to do. We're a well-oiled machine. And I was like, shoot, like I just did this thing for me and they already don't need me. So a third studio is not going to happen. That's why I went to that conference because I was like, I need something new that's not in the dance world.
Do you still have both of them? Or do you have more?
I do have both. The second one, even though I shouldn't have done it. I didn't need it. The second one is doing phenomenal. It's amazing. I'm glad I did it, but I really will not do a third. I have no intention of doing a third.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Okay. So you start devouring Marie Forleo's content and all that stuff. Where do you go from there?
So now I find Amy Porterfield, Brendan Burchard. I find everybody, right?
Yeah.
I did go to one of Brendan Burchard's conferences immediately. So I went from Darren's 24 people to Brendan's probably like 5,000 and people jumping up in the air. And I'm like, what in the world is this? It was just crazy. So I kind of started to head down that rabbit hole and it was just brand new to me. I mean, I worked in a brick and mortar. I didn't know about online and people were selling and I don't even know I don't think we would have been running Facebook ads that many years ago. Yeah. So when I say I learned this from scratch, I mean, I didn't know any part of this online space. And to say like, was I techie? I didn't have to be techie. We were doing like Google spreadsheets back then. There was no tech side of the dance world that I ever had to learn.
Right. Crazy. So what brand came from that? What did you create after all of that stuff?
So, I did everything wrong. I thought, well, I am not credible.
Yeah.
Who am I? I only have a 7-figure business to be teaching, right?
I'm only in the top 1% of business owners.
I mean, crazy, right? Especially for females.
Yeah.
So I think I need a book. That was literally my first thought is I have to have a book. I can't do this without a book. Yeah. Because you know who I saw not growing up from 18 to whatever age I was the next 10 years, I saw speakers on stages and they all had books, right? Yeah. Every conference I would go to, because I'm so old school, there was no digital courses. I would watch them on stage and they always had a book. And I thought, I want to be on stage and I'm going to need a book to get on stage. So I spent a year writing a book. And I mean, that's a long time putting in all that work, really writing this just from scratch, right? Everything. And then finally, when the book is out, I then publicly announce this is what I'm doing. So I was working behind the scenes for a year with nobody knowing, because I was a little embarrassed.
Yeah. What was it about? What's the book about?
Well, so the book was called, Is Your Business Worth Saving? So in the brick and mortar world, we just talked about this. There's no profit margin. Do you know how many times I would sit at a table at those conferences and people would say, I don't know if I should do this anymore. I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if I should. So my book was all about, well, if you haven't done these steps yet, we shouldn't even talk about it, scrapping your business. Let's start putting these into place, and all of a sudden it'll start to do well for you. So my book was Is Your Business Worth Saving? My podcast was called Business Rescue Roadmap. And I was saving small business owners.
Oh, interesting. It's kind of like Marcus. What's his name? Marcus Lemone's. That's what he does.
However, I felt like I was just attracting all of the people that were just not doing good.
Yeah.
So I'm this go-getter who's let's do it, positive mindset. And I was getting all the people that were nope, this doesn't work. Won't work for me. And I realized very quickly I had the wrong brand that was attracting the wrong person.
Oh, gotcha. And were you selling anything at that point?
I was selling $97 30-minute private calls with me.
Oh my gosh, that sounds exhausting.
One-off private strategy calls.
Oh my God.
Because in my world too, I had a coach since I was 21. You paid your coach for phone calls.
Yeah.
I always had a one-on-one coach. So I thought that's what success looked like.
Gotcha. How old were you at this point?
I'm how old am I? 31. So I'm 36 right now. The online business I launched 5 years ago.
Okay.
So that's how I started.
Jeez Louise. Well, you've had massive growth in just 5 years. So what happened at that point? Did you just scrap it and move into a different direction?
I probably did that for a good year when I was realizing oh shoot. And then what happened was I was okay, what am I good at? Kind of like the same dance studio story. Okay, I can't compete with those people, but what am I good at? So I did the same thing. And I was you know what? I have been in a mastermind since the age of 21. I'm now 31. I should launch a mastermind. So I do, this will be 4 years ago now on Black Friday. 4 years ago at Black Friday-ish, I launch a 5-day challenge and I sell a mastermind at the end of it for 90 days. It was a $2,500 price tag. And I think I said 12 spots available or something like that.
And is this still to that same audience, the brick and mortar people?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. That's who I was naturally attracting. Yeah. So I go to sell this and I sell the 12 spots out in 48 hours.
Wow.
And I opened up a second one. And just so you know, my Facebook group at the time had 400 people in it. This is not a massive audience. My email list was probably 1,000. So I sell this. I end up doing 2 groups at the same time because I promised 12 and I didn't want to go back on my word. So I think I ended up getting 20 some, and I had $60,000 launch with this thing. So I'm telling you, I went from nothing. Yeah. I wasn't making anything to holy cow, this is going to be it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's awesome too, because it was only 90 days. The fulfillment is only 90 days. So this is a total rinse and repeat every quarter type of situation.
Well, you would think that, but when you don't realize you should be rinsing and repeating on your offer, you start to go down the shiny object syndrome.
So what happened?
So I launched a totally new thing. I know this stuff now, but I didn't know it back then. I was oh, what else should I sell?
Yeah. So many people do that. It's so funny.
It's so sad. And I didn't even share this too. So this is how I started 5 years ago. So I have very little information of how should I do this. But one of the things that I heard, I think Darren talk about was collaborate. Who do you have in your corner? So I was you know what? I have this dance mentor who has an audience. She trusts me. I was teaching very good at productivity. So I said to my dance mentor, what if I sold a productivity course? We do a joint webinar and we get 50-50 split. Okay. So I have no email list. So she emails out her people. This is before I have publicly come out into the world as an online business coach. So she emails her people. We ended up, I got 800 people on my email list in 1 week from this webinar. Wow. And we ended up selling $11,000. So we each made $5,500. Okay. Yeah. That was how I launched, like the first week of ever going live. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, again, you're like, perfect. So did you keep selling it? Nope.
Nope.
Nope. Never again. Never again sold that course.
Oh my gosh.
I literally was like, now what should I sell?
Oh my God. You're doing the hardest.
I know, Brandon.
The hardest thing over and over and over again.
I should have like 7 $1 million plus products right now. Not kidding. Because every one of them was good.
Yeah.
Like I could have resold every one of those things.
Well, it just amazes the mastermind one, because I'm like, you did 60 grand, you could have resold them back into another version of it or someone else like that. I mean, you're talking $250,000 business right off the bat.
So here is how that happened though. So after I sold the $60,000 launch, people were mesmerized that I just sold that, because they could tell we were like welcoming people. They're doing the math. They're like, holy cow, she just sold this many people times this much, right? So what happens? They start saying, could you teach me how to do what you just did?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So I'm like, sure, why not? So I started teaching people how I launched the mastermind, not the mastermind.
Yeah.
And what happened was it started to work and I was making money. I was making probably 6 figures or so those years, but I started to actually go down because I feel like the competitors were increasing.
Right.
And I wasn't really that credible in the online space. Yeah. I was credible in brick and mortar and I was credible in masterminds, but now I'm teaching online marketing with everybody else that teaches online marketing that's been in it longer than me.
Yeah. So where did you go from there?
So I probably held on, because I mean, you're talking this 5 years. So we're already like 2 years into my story, probably a year of doing what we called Launched in 90. I rebranded to She's Building Her Empire for 2 years.
Okay.
At the time, I loved it. I was like, this is it. I'm totally building my empire. I wanted to work with women. But what I found out,
was that the like the shift you made? So you're selling all these things, but you shifted it just to female entrepreneurs to try to like carve out your little like piece.
Okay.
And I really did feel like I liked working with women better than men.
Yeah.
Like there was something about it that at the time because you know why? This is exactly why. I was insecure. Yeah. And I felt like having the women come to me, I felt more like, okay, I can teach them. Whereas I think I was more intimidated by a guy coming in, like, what was I going to teach him? And now I'm like, no, that's just so dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% is pretty stupid.
I know.
Sorry.
Let's just list all the dumb things I did in the last 5 years.
I feel like that's what this podcast is trying to get to.
But it's great. I mean, it's showing like the real story behind what it takes sometimes. Cause I mean, I know we're kind of laughing about it now because we know better, but a lot of my mistakes are very similar. Just like, and sometimes things are just right in front of your face, but you just don't have the right lens to see it yet. So, and they're all necessary things. So she's building her empire. You're bringing that out, building that out. What happens from there?
I think what happens is I start to realize I'm getting people that are new. They've never been in a business ever. I'm teaching things like online marketing and building an online business from scratch. When my passion was, I had 40 plus employees. Like I am really good at delegating. I'm really good at building a team and how to get out of the business. Like so I have a brick and mortar dance studio. I can walk in the building with my child who takes dance, sit down in a chair, and somebody can look at me and be like, oh, how long have you guys been here?
Yeah,
I'm not kidding.
You would never know. That's
people
amazing.
have no idea who I am. Yeah. Some people, right? So that's what I should have been teaching, right? Like, and that's what I like to teach. I loved talking high level, but I wasn't attracting the high level person.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Like,
yeah,
because one of the things that I get asked all the time is how do you know when to pivot? And it sounds like there's a pivot coming. So you're building 2 questions actually. So there's she's building her empire. How much revenue are you guys at this point with that brand?
High 6 figures.
High 6 figures. Okay.
Yeah. Like we've crossed the $500,000 mark. So it wasn't like, oh, we're unsuccessful, we should pivot. It was, I'm not really happy and fulfilled right now.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what my next question was. How did you know there was a pivot? Was it just because of your happiness level?
Yeah. Like I was just like, I'm not like excited to show up on my call because I know I'm going to teach the same old stuff. And I'm never going to get into the good stuff that lights me up. And I wasn't finding people that were making $1 million or making 500,000 or been in business for 10 years. It was like every single person was brand spanking new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And that's the thing I kind of ran into too, is like, you get started and you're like, what's just going to make me the money? And then you get down this rabbit hole and you're like, I actually hate this. enjoy it. And the money that you're making really has no effect on the happiness level when you're doing that. And for me, it was like the whole thing of teaching YouTube. I just got to a point, I'm like, yeah, no, I was almost at the same level. We were like 580,000 a year or something like that. And I was just like, nope, we're done. And we pivoted to what we're doing now. I'll tell you like my thoughts on it. I'd love your thoughts on it. But you always hear people say, how do we get aligned? Or how do we like get aligned with what we're supposed to be doing? And for me, it's literally just follow what's in your heart. Like it's that simple. Just listen to what lights you up and is what is exciting to you, not what's going to make you the money. Would you agree to that? Or did you have a different experience when you made your pivot?
I did, but I feel like I didn't know the answer. So like I would sit in Business Rescue Roadmap for, I think maybe a year plus. Then I sat with She's Building Her Empire. So I bet you Business Rescue Roadmap was 2 years. And then I bet She's Building Her Empire was 2 years. And then this last year was Foot Traffic, which makes sense. So first know that again, pivots should not be every 3 months because you will really confuse your audience. I held on for quite a while and not just a year, but that podcast, the first year I released 3 episodes a week. So do the math on how much I was putting out there to really learn. Right. So the one thing for me was I would start to get a little unhappy, but I wouldn't tell people. So when I realized I'm not loving She's Building Her Empire anymore, I still was having to kind of fake it a little bit, not fake it, but like I still had to show up and deliver what I was promising. Right. And I kept doing it, but I was searching at the same time. Right. So I didn't switch from Business Rescue Roadmap till She's Building Her Empire until I had She's Building Her Empire. Because you can't be like, so I guess we're going to call our podcast this name. And then you find the real name 3 months later and you change the name again. Right. Like if you're going to change, you better change and like come strong with a rebrand. Right. So I really sat for a while until I found She's Building Her Empire. Same thing with Foot Traffic. I actually sat for 6 months knowing something had to happen, but I didn't know what it was. And I'm one of those people where this happens to me when I buy a house or anything that I see or hear, I have to love it. Like, I'm like, ooh, like I can walk into, we own rental properties and things like that. That's why I say a house. Yeah. I can walk into a house and be like, and then I walk into one and I'm like, this is it. Like, I know it. And I felt that way about Foot Traffic. Like when it finally hit, I was like, ooh, this is it. Like, this is Foot Traffic. But 6 months before that, I'm like, that's okay. Yeah, I guess I could do that one. Yeah. It was just like a mediocre, like, okay. But when I finally hear something that I love and it gets me excited, then I know it's right.
Yeah. And that's basically what we did when we kind of went into what we're doing. I mean, I sat for 3 months, and people were like, what do you mean you sat for 3 months? I'm like, I literally just sat in my office doing nothing for 3 months. Like I was so burnt out. I just stopped all of it. I'm just like, I'm just done. So when you say you sat for 6 months, I mean, what does that mean? Were you still doing stuff or?
Let's be clear. I did not sit for 6 months. I sat on the idea in my head of something needs to change, but I don't know what. Yeah. I was still very active, very committed to what I was doing. No one would have known that I was having this like midlife crisis, right? Yeah. They don't know until I go to launch it and I make the launch special and explain why. And it's like this event, right? Right. So I think the more I do, the more I discover and I get closer to my thing. Yeah. I think sitting a lot of times, and this is a personal preference, I think sitting for me does not give me ideas. Whereas maybe sitting for you lets you like think and get creative. That is not how my brain works.
Yeah. Well, let me explain a little further. So when I say sitting, like I was sitting here, but it's also for me was like taking actions because I feel like that brings so much clarity too. But it's also just like, for me, it's closing the mind. It's getting rid of like, here's what I'm supposed to do, and just like shutting it out. And I tell people all the time, like when you're in the shower and all of a sudden ideas start hitting you, it's because the mind is like shut off to allow whatever needs to come in. And that's what my life was like for like those 3 months. And so, but you can still do that while taking actions. You can still like take actions while closing that mind off so things can come in. But I love that. I mean, it makes so much sense. And, again, it seems like it's just, there wasn't something sitting right in your heart with what you want to do and your passion. So you switched it and you changed it.
Yeah. And I think looking back, it happened in both businesses. Yeah. I felt like I couldn't fake that I was this most amazing dancer. We were going to bring the best dancers. And I felt weird competing, pretending like it. And then when I owned, no, we're the place where your kid's going to have fun and they're going to love it.
Yeah.
Same thing over here. I'm like, why am I pretending to be this amazing online marketer? I actually am pretty good at online marketing, but let's be clear. I know brick and mortar, like I know marketing and I know more traditional aspects, but yes, there's going to be a taste of it. So I feel like when I got clear on who I really was in both businesses, that's what felt aligned to me.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting too, because it seems like what foot traffic is taking the experience of all the businesses and putting it together in one. And you had to go through those in order to create that. And so right now, it's kind of interesting too, when you were talking about your first online business, you were talking about like you're working with brick and mortar type businesses. And I'm like, well, that's kind of funny because that's almost what you're doing now to a degree. And so it's almost like full circle. So tell me a little bit about foot traffic, which is what you do now. What is it and who do you serve and what do you guys offer? And just give me the rundown.
Yeah, totally. So we have basically two main offers. I should say like the offer that everybody sees is what we call foot traffic formula. So it is a group coaching program where I'm teaching this formula. And I basically say like, people need to focus on marketing and sales, right? So that is what that program is. You want to know how to get customers in the door. You don't want to know how to automate it, right? People come in for that program. When they are in that program, usually like the rock stars of that program, there is an internal funnel that we let them know about called Powerhouse. Now, I will say we do talk about Powerhouse publicly, but like a teeny tiny percentage compared to our main offer of foot traffic formula. And Powerhouse is more, it's a mastermind. It's more high level. We talk, it's marketing and sales advanced, but then we talk about operations, fulfillment, everything else you need. I always tell people when you're in Powerhouse, like there's nothing off limits. If you want to know something about how we're running something here, ask us. In Foot Traffic Formula, we strictly talk about marketing and sales, and that's it. So we have two tiers in there. Those are our main offers. And then I would say content wise, our focus is the podcast. That's probably our best place that people come from. And then we try to get our podcast listeners because they're not visible. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who's been stalking you for years, right? Right. We try to get the podcast people into our Facebook group because when they're in our Facebook group, we now have a name, right? We have a face to a name. We know they're actually there and they actually become a lead for us.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So many questions. So first one, what's the price point on your two offers that you have now?
$6,000 and $25,000.
Dang,
they're both annual programs. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. They're annual.
That's okay. Annual.
Wow. So you're like totally high ticket on pretty much just the two offers and that's it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I feel like high ticket was always what worked for me because I was small and no one knew me. I always kind of had that higher price point and it would add up. The second I try to do like the 997 or like the little offers, it was like, I'm not a value model. So we stay high ticket, but the math adds up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's nice.
Well, I love that. I'm all for high ticket for sure. And you always get into these doubts of like, oh, no one will ever pay that. And I remember with our mentorship program, when it was $10,000 when it first started and we just threw it on the sales page as a price anchor. And I was like, no one's going to buy this. And then we started getting sales for our program. And then it was like mentorship. And I'm like, what's happening right now? This is so amazing.
I think price is also going to attract and repel. Yeah. So when I was $30 a month with the dance studio, oh man, the people we would get, or the Groupons, like, oh, it was awful. We did Groupons one time and we'll never do it ever again. But then we started to be the most expensive and our clientele changed. Yeah. So when I was starting my other business here in Foot Traffic, I realized, okay, I don't want to be the cheapest. And when I say I'm a premium price tag, it weeds out the people that are not serious. Cause I'm serious. Like I am not the girl boss, nothing wrong with that, but I'm not the side hustle. Like I'm like, let's go all in. So I want somebody who's not afraid of a $6,000 price tag because they know they're going to get it back.
Yeah. And that's the same thing with us is our course now is $3,000, which just for the course. And, we're in a peer-to-peer mastermind and in there, we're talking about guarantees and stuff that we like to offer. And we have a guarantee, which is like, do the work. And if you don't get the certain result, we'll give you double your money back. But also the thing is we've had like maybe one refund in the last 3 years, like one, and that's it. Part of it's because of that guarantee, but part of it is also because at a 3,000 minimum price point, you don't get people who are looky-loos who are just going to be like, they're like all in, they're ready for it. And they want it. And what most people don't realize also is that they look at like so many industry norms or numbers when determining things. Like our last launch had a 1% conversion rate, and most people would be like, well, that's not that great. I was like, well, we profited over $500,000, and it's because of the higher price point. And you bring up a great point, which is like high ticket makes it so you don't need massive volume or massive following, but you can still do an amazing business.
Well, and what's so cool is we just did a 5-day challenge free last week or the week before, and we had 23 buyers, which 23, that's not like a crazy number. Anybody listening could get 23 people to convince to say yes. Right. But we profit over $100,000 in that 1 week just from 23 people.
That's amazing. In a week. That's just unbelievable. So good. So the strategy is like podcast the Facebook group. What are you guys doing inside that Facebook group to like keep people engaged, turn them into leads, that type of stuff?
Yeah. So here's the thing. We have to get creative. Like if you want to get a podcast listener to go into a Facebook group, if they're not on Facebook, you better get them something really good, right? Yeah. So we had to start sharing more about what was happening in the Facebook group, and it needed to be podcast friendly. So if people love the podcast, well, they would probably love more of the podcast. So instead of me going live on the podcast 3 times a week, I thought, what if I just do one of those privately in our Facebook group? So every Monday, I am giving them a bonus podcast that you only hear in the Facebook group. And they're good podcasts, right?
You're doing that every Monday?
Every Monday I go live with a real training.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but that gets people in. Right. And we have enrollment, like an enrollment team. So our enrollment team is welcoming every single person, saying, hello, we're here if you need us, ask us any questions. When people have somebody that's not me, right? That's not you. And they're like, oh, they can ask, I'm going to put air quotes, dumb questions, right? Because they don't want to ask us questions if they think it's dumb, but they'll privately DM one of the coaches and be like, hey, what about this? And we sell a lot in our DMs, a lot. So just to show you, we have 5,000, a little over 5,000 people in this Facebook group. I've had many Facebook groups before. One we closed at 14,000. When you pivot, you get the wrong people sometimes. And I'm like, let's start over. So we have 5,000 people in this Facebook group. We only spent, you're going to die. We only spent $500 to tell people about this challenge 2 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
This really wasn't like a launch. This was just, let's just make sure people know we've got this going on in the Facebook group and tell our warm audience only.
Wow.
So we spent $500. We just went live in the Facebook group every single day, and we sold 23 people out of those 5,000 into the program. Jeez. So when I say like profit margin, I mean like,
it's huge.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We're so close to the election. I'm like, I'm not spending 20 grand on Facebook ads if I don't even know if people are going to buy right this second. Right. I didn't want that massive gamble either. Right. Not that I won't in the future. It was just, it's a week before the election. I was trying to, be smart.
Well, when you have an asset, why not use it?
I have an asset. And these people are warmed up. They love me on the podcast. They come into the Facebook group for that reason. Our Facebook group, we don't allow people to post. Like the only people posting is me. You're coming for me, right? You're coming for my content, I should say, which gets the wrong people out. Because if you want to self-promote, you can't. There's no way to do it. Right. So I do this training every week. And then once in a while, I'll do what I call like an engagement campaign, which would have been the challenge. Like, how do we engage them? So what I'm doing for November is there's 5 Mondays. So I'm doing my plan to profit workshop. Like every single week, there's a theme. They know when I'm going live, they know what the title is. They know the promise of what the Plan to Profit Challenge is. So again, it's like, you can't just be like, join my Facebook group. They don't want to. They're in 32,000 Facebook groups. But when I'm like, hey, if you love the podcast, I'm going to do 5 bonus episodes all about creating your plan to profit, your plan for 2021. Come join me every Monday at 11:30, right? Yeah. All of a sudden it's like, ooh, I actually want that. And the only place you can get it is in the Facebook group. So our Facebook group blows up every day.
Gotcha. So do you have them opt in for anything like before getting in there? Like how do you get them on the list, or are you not really concerned about that?
Yeah. So they do have to answer questions. They can put their email and their phone number if they want to. Okay. So that's an opportunity. They're not required to do that. Right. But then when they come in, we do have, I know we've talked about this. We did create in August a $27 offer. And that is something that we sell all the time. And I pretty much talk about every Monday when I go live, because it's a really easy ask. And that is a great way to get people's name and emails. And it's a pretty qualified lead.
Oh yeah. That makes a ton of sense. Okay. So you're like, just get in the group, and then you have ways from inside the group to get them on the list or make them a customer or something like that.
For sure.
Okay, amazing. A couple more questions on your podcast. Like how many downloads are you getting per an episode? Just kind of put like the numbers in place here.
Yeah. So not like, I don't feel like we're crazy with downloads. We're getting about 60,000 downloads a month.
Okay.
And we're getting, I think like 2,000 an episode within like 24 hours or something of it going live.
That's really good. Yeah. Okay. Makes a lot of sense.
I think the average, they say like 50% of iTunes podcasts get like 176 downloads. Okay. I definitely was in the beginning. It felt like that was who we were.
Yeah.
It felt like 100 people were listening and probably only 50 of them actually heard it. And the other 50 were just subscribed. Now I can tell people are listening. It feels different, but it's 5 years, 5 years already. 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
We have like 500 episodes. So we've been pretty consistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. Cool. And then, so right now you're basically helping brick and mortar businesses, kind of like delegate their stuff and streamline it, but you're also helping them bring their stuff online, right? So do both offers, like, do you think that's the next direction you're heading? Or is that just, are you trying to encompass both of those?
I'm trying to encompass both inside a foot traffic formula. So I always say now, get more customers in your door, whether that's physical or virtual. Because here's the thing, I've got funnels in both businesses. It's not very different. Like they look pretty similar. You can just tell like one is like, get a free trial in the dance classroom, right? The other one is, like the content machine, right? Like getting them to like try me out. I always say like, what kind of bite-sized bundle can you sell them where it's a sample? Like Costco does phenomenal on samples. Like how do you bring the sample model to your business?
I love that. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. So Stacy, thank you so much for coming on today. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I would actually love to have you back on a second episode down the road to talk about kids and entrepreneurship as well. Cause we didn't really address, we kind of hinted at it, but you're also a mom with 2 young kids. And it's pretty rare, I feel like, in our space to find people that actually are building a business while having young kids. So if you're down for it, I would love to have you back.
I would love to. Yeah, no, I would love to. And I'm, my CPA is like, well, how much are we putting in your kids' college fund? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't really know if my kids are going to college, and they're 5 and 7. He's like, how do you know they're not going to college? I'm like, because I'm going to probably tell them not to.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I would love to come back and chat about it.
Okay, great. Yeah, that would be amazing. So thanks so much for coming on. Where can people go right now to get more of your content, listening to you more, and all of that good stuff?
Yeah. So my podcast is called Foot Traffic. Pretty much everywhere on social media, I'm at Stacy Tuschl. And then our free Facebook group is Foot Traffic Community.
Okay. Amazing. Stacy, thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you guys listening, don't forget to take your biggest breakthrough from today and put it on your Instagram stories and tag at I am Brandon Lucero. And just like every week, we will find the one that was the most powerful. My team will, and we'll give you guys a $25 gift card to Starbucks. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.